The Quail Dogs of Georgia. Hi, my name's Charlie Thorburn. Welcome to Bordeaux Gun Dogs. I'm in a plantation house in South Georgia, right on the Florida border. Like the Florida border is just a few miles away. It's a very old house. There's a big tree outside where the Confederate soldiers used to sit and have their lunch, which is pretty cool. And there's a beam, the main beam in the roof of this house is off a tree that would have been about 400, 500 years old when it was cut down 200 years ago to build the house, which is pretty big history in America. Like that's a long old time ago, long before basically the tree was sort of planted or seeded long before the Westerners came over here. So we've been down here for a few days and we spent the day out yesterday doing some training with our dogs who are moving here. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about the dogs and we're going to overlay some of the pictures and videos of some of the stuff we do. So it's much more traditional hunting, shooting with dogs here. They're working pointers through thick undergrowth. They're on horseback. The reason they're on horseback is a number of the distances traveled are quite far. You're not just walking up 100 meters getting a bird, walking another 50 meters getting another bird. We were 15 minutes on the horses and the wagons before we got going, and we were out for 3 hours. So more equivalent to grouse shooting in Scotland, where you're really having to work hard and walk a long way. The difference is also it's very hot here. So if you were going to walk these distances, you would be pretty uncomfortable, sweating. It wouldn't really be much fun. And then you've got all the other things to contend with. You've got the incredibly high undergrowth, which is, 4 feet plus high at some points. If you're on the horses, you can see the dogs working ahead of you and in front of you. If you're on the ground, you basically lose sight of your dogs for large periods of time. They go on point and they're just standing there on point. You've got no idea where they're on point. And they're there. And a thing is, a really good pointer will go on point and it will not move. It'll stay on point for significant periods of time, basically until the birds go. And even then, they're trained to stand still until they're released. So you're on horseback to avoid the cover, to be able to see the dogs. There's also rattlesnakes. We actually caught one right out in front of the house yesterday. One of the guys, a baby one, but even the baby ones are absolutely lethal. And one of the guys we were with saw it, managed to stand on it, and literally, cut its head off there and then. And it was amazing. Even after that, it was still moving around for 20 minutes, able to bite you. It was really a really pretty interesting but slightly scary moment, because if there's a little bit of a rattlesnake that's dead moving around and a young dog goes, "Oh, what's that?" Got it on the end of the nose, and if you're not quick, that dog's a goner. So these, some of these things are, they're pretty bit more intimidating than some of the stuff we get up to in Scotland. On that note, the dogs do get an anti-rattlesnake venom injection, which doesn't save their lives, but it gives them an extended period of time. We're properly in the middle of nowhere down here. I'd say we're 30, 40 minutes away from a vet easily. So it gives you that extra bit of time to get the dog to safety. The dogs are trained on rattlesnakes, and we can talk about that in another video. But we'll carry on with the task at hand. So the pointers are out in front pointing. The guys shooting are on horseback, or they're on the wagon, which is pulled by a couple of mules, and that's where the crates on the back of the wagon, really beautiful old wagons, really lovely, well-made things made a long time ago. And if they weren't made a long time ago, the new ones are made to look like old ones. Really pretty scenic, traditional kind of way of doing it. One of our clients has got a wagon that's well over 100 years old, has been on his plantation since his grandfather built it, which is pretty cool, or had it built. In the back of the wagon, there are 6 or 8 dog boxes, so they've got more pointers that they can exchange, because the pointers are running in some of this heat. I mean, yesterday it was in American money, it was 80 degrees Fahrenheit by the time we were finished. It's getting pretty hot for the dogs, so they need to switch them out reasonably regularly so the dogs don't get too hot, because they get tired quickly, and then lose, they'll overwork themselves, because most dogs don't have an off switch in the heat, and pointers certainly don't. They just work, and they'll just keel over. So they swap the dogs out. Now, while that's happening, on the front of the wagon, there's with us yesterday. There was a Springer and a Cocker, and they sit on the sort of the front and the left wing of the wagon equivalent. And so when the birds are being shot, they're looking out towards them, and the dog handler, who here is also the plantation manager, he will then call for one of the retrieving dogs, because the pointers are English pointers. They're not retrieving dogs. They're absolutely pure as pure can be. They are pointing dogs, and then they're basically told to stand at the side, let the birds be shot, and then the spaniels and the Labradors come in and retrieve. Now, when they go on, the pointers go on point. In this plantation,
just in here,
the
sitting
manager
tight.
goes in with a stick, like a
so sometimes Jesse would have a stick
in a
just to
pheasant shoot in southern England, beating his way through the rhododendrons or the brambles. He goes through with his beating stick, flush the quail, off they go. One of our old friends and original client in Georgia, Mr. Phipps, he used to like to have the spaniels go in and flush. So the pointers would go on point, the spaniels would be called off the wagon, they'd go in, flush, drop to flush, like a good spaniel would do in the UK, drop to flush, sit down to flush, the birds fly away, they're shot, and then you've either got the option of letting the spaniels retrieve them, or you can then call a Labrador off the wagon as well, and it comes forward. So that was, I did that once with him, and that was just absolutely the dream for me as an out and out dog person. I enjoy going shooting, but I love dogs. I would give up the shooting tomorrow to do the dog work, and to watch some really lovely pointers. And they have their own pointers that live on the plantations because they work them regularly. I mean, this one here, I think, is doing 100 days. Their own pointers, they work well, they're trained well. Then you've got the spaniels going into flush, the Labradors coming in afterwards. It's just like, this is what these dogs are meant to do. It's pretty awesome. What we were doing yesterday is the plantation manager would just go in with a beating stick, the quail would flush, the guns would shoot them, we'd call the dogs. If there was one quail, you'd call one dog. If there was 3 or 4 quail, he'd just say, send all the dogs, and we'd all go forward. Now, what I was doing at this time is I had a young chap with me who's going to spend a lot of time here, because his new family own it, and we were just getting him used to the wagon and used to the concept of running 100 yards forward or so to basically find blind retrieves. So him and I would run forward, and I'm sure there's some funny footage of me running like a middle-aged man with a bad back, but to encourage chap to get up to the fall of the birds with the other dogs and learn to kind of understand what it was. And then what the dogs do is, if there's 3 quail, they'll take the first 2 back to the dog handler out the front, and the last bird they'll say wagon, and the dog will run back to the wagon with the bird and give it to the gentleman who drives the wagon and controls the mules. So then when chap found a bird, I would run back to the wagon with him, encourage him to jump onto the wagon and hand the bird to Alex, particularly to yesterday, who was driving the wagon. And that's the tradition of how they do it. Like us removing a stag from taking a stag off a hill with a pony, or putting our grouse on a walked up day traditionally in the panniers on the side of a pony. They've just keep up their traditions, which is just awesome. And it's just so lovely to watch. And I would say, I take the mick out of some of our American friends about being a bit sort of gunslinging and no sort of finesse and stuff. And us Brits, aren't we good? And we wear our tweeds, and aren't we smart? These guys do it absolutely properly. These guys what they do down here is just amazing. And if anyone ever gets the chance to do it, I know that my wife is desperate to come down. She loves horses. So being able to go out on a day, not necessarily to shoot anything, just experience the whole thing. It's just, I do it once or twice a year. I'm very lucky. And every time I go, God, this is awesome. This is just really one of the pinnacles of the thing. I'm a lucky guy. I get to go all around the world shooting all sorts of things and doing all sorts of interesting places, and this is definitely one of the highlights. The 250-year-old house that we're in, the wagons 100 years old, the mules, the horses, the setup, the way they do it is just so lovely, so gentle, very southern, very slow and relaxed, and there's no sort of rushing around, there's no yelling. It's just kind of calm. There's no sort of beaters being yelled at for being in the wrong place. Everyone's just enjoying their day and having a fab time. It's not about numbers. I think yesterday we shot 22 quail between four guns, and they'll all remember each quail, and you know, and it's really a special time. From our point of view, young chap picked his first quail, no problem. He picked another 4, so he got 5. He picked up 5 yesterday, and actually he managed to beat one of the more experienced dogs, which was also one of mine. He managed to beat him to a quail. They were both looking in the same area, and chap, using the sort of slightly more steady approach, worked it out, picked it, and brought it back to me. It was if like, I can do this, Dad, no problem. So that was lovely to see as well, and also lovely to be able to tell his owners that who wasn't able to join us yesterday that you know, he's already picked a handful of quail. He's already been on the wagon. I had a good chat with some of the guys who work on the plantation about what I was doing, and they're really you know, really on board, and they do the same. You know, we're watching what they were doing, and I was explaining to some of the guys who I was delivering dogs to about what they were doing and how useful it was. So hopefully they'll be able to get their hands on chap and just getting used to some of the sort of the slightly different quirks. Sitting on the wagon, the horses, he was actually great with all of them, but the wagon did bother him a little bit. It's that always that first movement when it jerks off. The dogs kind of aren't quite sure, or it comes to a standstill and they're like, oh, it comes, because it's quite abrupt, and he wanted to jump on and off, but he just got the hang of sitting with me and started to look out, and I was encouraging him to watch when the guns went forward. And again, because he's up high, 5 feet off the ground on the wagon, he's also able to see over the top of the cover to see the guns, so he's going to very quickly learn that's where they are. When I'm called, I go forward and I do my job. So really looking forward to seeing chap working, you know, probably not this season. I don't think I'll be back, but next season, hopefully I'll be back. I'll get to see him doing his thing, which will be just great. So very traditional dog work, very different really to what we're doing in the UK. So it's really kind of tailor-made training, which is kind of what we pride ourselves on. And I've been coming here for a number of years, and I still, yesterday I was sitting there and I came up with some ideas that would make the next dogs that come here, and we've got a little list of dogs already due to come down here. The next dogs due to come here, just to make them even better and just slot in even quicker. We did a lot of work with them riding on the back of the truck, doing retrieves off the back of the truck and back onto the truck at home, which was really useful because both of them were just in and out of the vehicle, on and off the wagon, no bother. But I can see how we can improve on that and make it even better. And I've got a young, really nice young gentleman down here who's getting one of my dogs in a year and a half's time, roughly. And he's an avid sportsman, loves his shooting. He's been with us in Scotland. He loves coming out here, and I can really see how we can make his dog just to sort of, you know, hit the ground running, literally being an awesome dog by just having the ability to spend time down here and watch what goes on. So I hope you enjoy some of the clips, some of the scenes from down here. It's pretty awesome. Yeah, we're actually going to try and organize a trip to come out here because it's such fun. Remember, you get out what you put in. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.